All right, so in this short video, we're going to look at how we use the recode function in SPSS. For the demonstration here, I'm going to recode a couple of variables in the community indicators dataset that we've been using for several of the assignments this semester. So before you begin the recode function, it's always good to conceptualize how you want to recode your variables. That way you know exactly when you need to program into the system. So here for the demonstration, I'm going to recode the unemployment rate. The unemployment rate ranges between, in theory, 0 to 100%. And I'm going to turn that percentage variable into a three-category ordinal variable for low, medium, and high. So once again, that might be useful if you want to go and show as a bar graph, or you want to do some kind of categorical analysis on a continuous variable. So quite often used for various recoding for analyses and simplification of a continuous variable. So here, taking a look, I've got my unemployment rate, and there really is no rule on how you define those low, medium, and high categories. One strategy that people like to use to figure out how to define those categories is to take the graph of the continuous variable and kind of conceptualize where the breakpoints would be for a low, medium, high variable. So just for illustration here, I'm going to create a histogram of the unemployment rate, and based on that histogram, right down here, kind of look and see how the variable is distributed. So we can see from our picture that kind of the lowest unemployment rate we see is a little bit under 5%. The highest unemployment rate we see is around a little less than 20%. And the bulk of the cases are really around kind of maybe 7-8%. So here, if we're thinking about breaking this into three categories, once again, there is no hard or fast rule on how to do this. I might say then that anything under 6% is a low level of unemployment for the counties. Anything that is 6.1% to, let's say, 10% is a medium level of unemployment, and anything over 10%, let's say, is a high level of unemployment. Once again, I'm just kind of visualizing here and picking out where I think the breakpoints would be. You could pick out different breakpoints depending on what you wanted to convey in your particular analysis. So once again, we might write this down ahead of time so we kind of can remember what we were thinking. So we think about our old values for the regular unemployment variable. And then we want to think about the new values for our three-category unemployment variable. So here, we kind of said that anything that is 6.0 or less, that is 6% or less in terms of unemployment rate, will be a new value of 1, which we're saying is the low level of unemployment. We said 6.1 to 10.0 will be what we consider a medium level of unemployment, and anything that is 10.1 or higher will be a high level of unemployment based on our new category variable. So really the steps then in SPSS to convert kind of that old variable to the new variable is using the recode function. So to do that, I'm going to minimize this window. Once again, keeping in mind this framework here. So in our SPSS sort of menu window, we're going to go to transform. And there are two different options for recode. One option is to recode into the same variable, which would replace your original variable. I really don't recommend you do that because that is data destructive, meaning that you will delete the original data for your unemployment variable and be completely replaced by your new coding. I think that it's more useful to recode into a different variable that's non-data destructive in the sense that you will keep your original variable unemployment and then have a second variable that uses your three-category coding. So in that sense, it's non-data destructive. So here I'm going to pick recode into a different variable, and I'm going to pick for my input variable the unemployment rate. And now it's going to ask me for an output variable. So I have to define that over here in the sidebar. And I'm going to call my new variable unempl underscore 3cat, which is a 3-category unemployment measure. Once I hit change, you'll see that name appear in the little box that'll show us that we're going from the unemployment variable to the unemployment 3-category variable. And then I have to specify the old and new values to make that transformation happen. So I'm going to open up the second window, which will allow me to specify old values to new values. And once again, thinking about kind of the framework we set up before, we want to say anything that is 6% or less is going to be 1. So here our options are to actually specify the value. And you can go for categorical values 1 to 1, 1 to 2, whatever you want the change to be. If you have missing data, you can select the missing data to become a value. But here we want to use range because we're talking about a continuous variable. So you can select the range by inputting the specific low end and high values yourself, or there are a couple other options to select the lowest through a particular value and the particular value through the highest. So here, I want anything 6% or less, so I want the lowest value in my data set through value 6.0, right? So that's representing that first category, the lowest values, so anything that is less than 6. All the way up to 6 will become new value 1. So when I specify that old value of 6.0, lowest through 6.0 to new value of 1, I'll click add, and you'll see that Recode sort of reflected in the old to new window. We said in our example that anything 6.1 to 10.0 will be 2. So here I'm going to go for a range. 6.1 through 10.0 will become new value 2. And once again, you see that then reflected here, 6.1 through 10.0. And then finally, we said 10.1 or higher, or through the highest value will become a 3. So I'm going to go back and say range 10.1 through the highest value, whatever it is, we don't know. Whatever that value is, will become a 3. And then basically I'm done. I've specified lowest through 6.0 to be 1s, 6.1s through 10.0s to be 2s, and 10.1 through the highest value to be 3s. I can click continue here, and basically now I can just hit OK, and that new variable will be recoded. So here you can say that it recoded the 3 variables, it executed, and we can go back and double check in our data file that there is in fact this new unemployment category. You can compare here. So our first observation is at 2.0. Go back to our original unemployment variable, 7.6. Right, so if we think 7.6 is a 2, that makes sense because we said anything between 6.1 to 10. So 7.6 is between 6.1 and 10. That's recoded as a 2. We should say here this 5.1, based on a recoding scheme, should be a 1 because it's less than 6. So we can scroll to the end and confirm that it is in fact recoded as a 1. So now we have a brand new variable that is a 3-category measure of unemployment, recoded from the original unemployment variable. Once again, you can use it for categorical variables as well. So here, just to do a really quick second demonstration, suppose we want to use the city-county match variable, which is coded as 1, 2, 3, close, fair, dissimilar. And let's say we want to eliminate the distinction between 1 and 2 and just have a dummy variable marking whether or not the city-county match is dissimilar. So we only want to care about retaining the 3s. So maybe we'll go from 1s to 2s, recode those as 0s, and recode the 3s as 1s. Once again, it's helpful, I think, to write that stuff out. So let's think about our old values. This is now the old values of city-county match. And we might think about the new variable simply being a dummy variable, about whether or not they're dissimilar. So in this instance, we might want to take old values of 1, which were close. That is not dissimilar, so we'll put that as a 0. Old values of 2, which are fair, we're also going to say in this case are not dissimilar. And old values of 3, which are dissimilar, will now become new value 1. So once again, 1s and 2s are going to become 0s, and 3s are going to become 1s. And this is up to you to pick out how you want to recode. But once again, to do this in SPSS, it's should be a relatively straightforward sort of process once you get into the hang of the recode function. So here I'm going to recode into different variables. I'm going to reset the box because it's still showing my unemployment recode. I'm going to go find that city county match variable. Once again, I need to create a new variable, which I'll call dissimilar. And I'm going to specify my old and new values. So we said old value 1 is going to become new value 0. Old value 2 is going to become new value 0 as well. Old value 3 is going to become new value 1. We click continue, and forgot to hit change, right? So change, okay. And now when we execute that function, we will have a new dummy variable that represents dissimilar, reflecting the recode of the city-county match. When you have a categorical variable transformation, you can always double check to make sure everything worked correctly by creating a crosstab. So here, let's go to descriptors crosstab, and we're going to cross-tabulate kind of our city-county match against our new dissimilar variable. And when you create that cross-tabulation, you should be able to see how things are matched. So closes all became zeros, fairs all became zeros, dissimilars all became ones. So if we saw something, let's say like a close 1, fair 1, dissimilar 0, we know something went wrong with the coding. But here we can see that all the closes were matched to zeros on dissimilar, all the fairs were matched on zeros to dissimilar, and all the dissimilars were matched to 1 on the new dissimilar variable. So once again, that's just a quick demo of how the recode function works in SPSS. Hopefully you find it helpful as you're working on your assignments and on your own data projects.